said last time, let's pick up where we left off. We were busy discussing worker control. You were busy explaining to me what worker control is. And, from your explanation of it, it doesn't seem to gel well or to connect well with democratic centralism, right? Democratic centralism basically says that once a decision is made by your leaders, you must comply as sort of followers, right? Whereas worker control basically says that the leadership serves the workers. Basically the leadership serves the members, right? And therefore they should sort of comply with what the members want.
To me, putting it that way might be simplistic, because must remember, when it is said the higher structure, the very same higher structure, you will find that it comprises some of the members who come from the branches, who also form this higher structure. For example, if an organization is big as the ones that we know, and they are represented in all provinces, it means they will have local, regional, provincial, as well as national structures. Now, when they say national, it will mean that people who are going to sit in that particular higher structure will come from all these under-mentioned structures. It means there will be people who come from the very same lower structures like branches, regions, and also provinces, which form what is referred to as the higher structure. Now, when that higher structure, if they say national conference has come to a particular decision, and it must be implemented or it must be complied with, it binds everybody. It binds even yourself as a president. It binds you. It also binds an ordinary member of that organization. What I'm trying to say is that the very same branch which is bound by the decision of the higher structure was somehow fairly represented. So it means it is not, we cannot call it a top-down approach idea of implementing a decision.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the very same decision must have been derived from the very same branches.
Yeah, because
it depends which idea wins.
Yeah, because the leaders who occupy those positions come from the branch structures, they were elected from those structures.
Yes, it's true.
So basically the leaders are the members.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so
that is what we call worker control.
Yeah. So basically then in our past interviews we spoke about how there's often a disconnect in terms of factionalism and corruption and so on and so forth. because I mean, if we talk about factionalism as a sort of separation between the faction and the organization, how do we justify that how do we actually even justify that as a separation if the people that are supposedly separating are actually they come from the membership of the organization? You understand? So how do you, who is corrupt? Is it the leaders who are corrupt, or is it the members who are corrupt? Because the leaders come from the members and they are the members. So how do you sort of start, when it comes to corruption, we seem to lay the blame to the leadership to say, hey, look, these leaders are not country, but in the same way, these leaders come from us. They are us.
Yeah, that one is a bit complex to me, because that is why our previous discussion, I said organizations which are worth their salt will ensure that they apply their disciplinary measures. Because these things like factions, these cabals, these cliques are not healthy for any organization. Once an organization allows cliques, cabals, and what they call factions to thrive, it is the beginning of the confusion and a chaos-ridden organization. It is the beginning of the end of that organization.
Yeah.
That is why when you look at history, you'll find that some of the organizations that deteriorated and became weak, it was as a result of factions.
Of factionalism, yeah.
And yes, it is as a result of factions. It means, at the end of the day, let's come to the conclusion that this was as a result of the failure of the organization to manage those factions.
Okay, to manage. All right.
Yeah, I think if an organization can be able to manage the factions, then it will win. But I also want to argue, and I want to emphasize this: if the organization does not make people feel that there are consequences in the organization, nothing will happen. See, if a person believes that he can say whatever he wants, he can do whatever he wants, he can commit any type of offense, and nothing happens. If there's a culture of impunity, that organization is in trouble. Okay. I don't want to encourage autocratic and dictatorial leadership.
Yeah.
But I believe
there must
that
be order, though. There must be order.
There must be order. Yeah, no, there must be order. I don't want to make the example of the Chinese Communist Party, because that one
there's too
seems
much
to be
order.
Extreme. That one seems to be extreme there.
Yeah.
But there must be order. There must be order.
Okay. Looking at COSATU's constitution and reading through their website, there's a portion that talks about, it says basically, let me just read off here. It says, the weakening of centralized bargaining has given rise to collective bargaining at the enterprise or workplace level. Okay. So, sorry?
I'm listening.
Okay. So for me, I just wanted to understand, I thought centralized bargaining was collective bargaining, but so I just put that in the questions to just ask, what is the difference between the two?
The term collective bargaining, well, in terms of the Labor Relations Act, and other pieces of legislation. It simply talks about the engagement of the employer on the one side and the unions on the other side.
This is collective bargaining.
Yes, unions representing their interests. It is basically that.
Okay.
It is negotiations which are on the basis of representation by those parties.
Mm-hmm.
It can be one or more employer against one union, or it can be one or more unions against one or more employers.
Mm-hmm.
Which is collective bargaining.
Okay,
and then the purpose of that discussion should be to arrive at a particular mutual understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then centralized bargaining. Centralized bargaining simply refers to bargaining which is confined to a particular sector. Or let me start.
Excuse me.
All right. Let me start from a lower level. Centralized bargaining could mean collective bargaining. Centralized bargaining is still collective bargaining, which happens at a local level in a particular factory, firm, or employer. One, it can be a centralized, referred to as a centralized bargaining. If it happens in a particular sector, say security sector, if the security industry and unions in that sector, they have a bargaining council which conducts collective bargaining for that sector, can also be referred to as a centralized bargaining. Like in the public service, the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council is collectively responsible for negotiating conditions of service and salaries and many other issues for the whole public service. That is centralized bargaining. Okay. The opposite of that, which is decentralized bargaining, it is different kinds of, it's like Department of Health negotiating on its own, Department of Labor negotiating on its own, conditions of service becoming different, and so on and so on and so on. Decentralized bargaining is happening mostly in the private sector.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand you properly, centralized bargaining is collective bargaining, but it is restricted to a certain space or sector or sector or workplace.
Yes.
So basically, but centralized bargaining, although it can be restricted to a workplace, it's not necessary. It's most often it doesn't refer to that. It refers more to the grander scale of collective bargaining, right? A collective bargaining that affects a greater area or number of spaces, whereas collective bargaining is what you call any form of engagement between an employer and a union, where it can happen from the smallest local area to the highest local area. I mean, to the highest sort of area. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think I understand that. I'd like to just go back to what we were discussing about, the relationship between leaders and members. And that, look, leaders have been sent by members. Leaders are members who are essentially being offered a position to serve the greater collective of members. At what point, and we discussed this already, where you have, and I think this is a problem which goes against your explanation of saying, look, but but workers, members, leaders are the members. Where you have a disconnection of ambition, right? My question to you is, at what point would you say that the organizational structure of the union, right, the way that the union is leveled in terms of, from regional to national or local to national, at what point does that structure actually facilitate that disconnection in ambition between leaders and the overall organization, where leaders start to feel like they can chart their own direction without the guidance from their members? So at what point do you believe that the structure itself, right, in how it's built as an organization from the local structures, do you believe that it has a role to play in causing the confusion between democratic centralism and worker control? Because that's what is happening. That's what corruption is. Corruption is a sort of like a misunderstanding or confusion around, what do I do as a leader? Do I serve or do I lead? Do I need their input or not? Do I tell them what to do? And I think you see this everywhere, even at a personal individual level, where people get confused at what actually a leader is. So at what point does the structure of the union facilitate that confusion?
That one to me is obviously a situation where there's no culture of accountability.
For example, because you were talking about rules, and you were saying that you're not promoting an autocratic sort of dictatorial situation, but then the problem is that there's a lack of order.
Yeah, no, it's true. You see, for example, at an institutional level, workers have chosen shop stewards, and the shop stewards' role, amongst others, is to ensure that when there's a problem, or when there's a grievance, they must assist this member to raise the grievance with the employer. And if the shop stewards do not do that, the workers have a right to say, explain to us, because these people are supposed to have regular meetings. Explain to us, why didn't you assist our comrade or our member? And if the members feel that there's a disservice by this shop steward, on the basis of accountability, I believe that the members are supposed to be able to say, we are withdrawing you as a shop steward. We are going to replace you with another person because you are not responsible enough. You are not able to carry out the mandate that we have given you. And then another factor that I want to highlight is that once leaders realize that they are doing certain things outside the mandate of or beyond the mandate of the organization, and no one is questioning them, things happen as if it is business as usual. Then maybe we can call them leaders who are lacking integrity. Will take advantage of the situation and do as they please, because no one is saying anything to them. Must remember, a leader with integrity does not act right just because people are watching him or her. A leader with integrity will do everything according to the mandate given by the organization,
Naturally.
whether somebody is watching or not watching. I know that maybe I'm being utopian. People are not perfect. People are not perfect, but there must be a demonstration of that type of character in a leader.
I want to go back to our discussion on social security. When we last talked about it, we basically said, and you sort of agreed with me to a certain extent when I said that social security, the problem is that it deteriorates relationships between individuals in communities because of their dependence on an outside state that will offer them these benefits instead of them taking care of one another. You agreed with that sentiment, right? My question then is, and at the time I'd asked you, should unions continue to push for this? You did answer the question. So my question now would be, is the state the only, or should the state be the only eligible provider of social security? Or the employer, because the employer also provides them through benefits, couldn't the union maybe provide these benefits, or communities themselves in helping one another? Wouldn't that be a better solution than a dependence to the state? Because the union is the members. If the union provides these benefits to the members, it's basically the members providing themselves with these benefits.
It is possible for unions to provide these benefits.
Would it be better though?
Yes, it will be better. Actually, my imaginary union is one which will ensure that its members are taken care of while they are working, and also after they've retired from their employment. Not only that to be the responsibility of government and the employer. Especially because, as we said last time, unions are able to participate in business transactions. They belong to investment companies. Actually, some of them, they don't just belong to investment companies. They create these investment companies. If they have these investment companies, how are these investment companies translating into benefits for these employees? Sometimes it is not really clear how these investments are benefiting members of the union. That is why ultimately it will appear as if once you become an office bearer, especially at national level, you behave like a pirate. Exactly. So you become somehow detached from the realities of your own members, which is incorrect. Is incorrect. You should be seen to be at the level of these employees. When you arrive there, you must not be seen to be like our current political leaders. Who appear in imbizos with very expensive motorcade. And are coming there to tell me, a person who's in 1,000 rand, that you're going to do 1, 2, 3. Then you take 5 years before you So that is what is happening. And some of the union leaders, they also behave like these politicians. They come and say, we're going to fix 1, 2, 3, and then they disappear until they come when they want to be re-elected.
But
These are
when it comes to the question of the union itself providing these social benefits, in what, because you said it would be better. Um, in what way would it be better for the member? Because now for me, my thinking is essentially just taking away power and leverage from the employer, right? And or the state. Because if you look at how it currently works, in my opinion, it's essentially the way it currently works, the union is not really much part of the conversation. They're invited, but I mean they can be at net leg where they can discuss issues and contribute. But looking at the fact that we live in a capitalist society, right, where the employer has more sort of economic power to sort of lobby, the kind of influence they want to have on the government, all right, where the union, being a non-profit organization in nature, is sort of legally more restricted and socially so because the perception is, but unions are not supposed to become rich per se, right? And even if the union is rich, the members are not supposed to benefit because the money is not supposed to go to individuals, as they say it, right? Individuals, okay? So, and they say it in plural because, I mean, what is a union but a group of individuals? So, so my issue is that, look, the individual citizen has to become more independent by becoming more connected to his or her peers, right? Being fellow colleagues, fellow employees, right? And in supporting one another, they need to become less dependent on the state and the employer. And therefore, they have to start taking care of one another in that way. That's why I was asking the question. So this is my understanding of how it would be better if the union did it rather than the employer doing it. I just don't know how it would work practically. I have no idea actually how it would work practically because that costs money. And we can't just say the union should charge more people more money so that it can provide them with benefits. So I don't know. What do you think?
To me, there is nothing that prohibits members of the union from benefiting financially from the union.
Huh.
There is nothing. Instead, legislation encourages unions to do everything that will benefit their employees. For example, there is what is called an agency shop agreement in terms of the labor relations act, and also there's an agency shop agreement and also closed shop agreement. Agency shop agreement has to do with the deduction of money from non-union members in a particular workplace or in a particular sector. And that subscription, if there is one union, it is paid to that union. If there are many unions, then it will be distributed to all those unions. The purpose of that subscription is to assist the union to benefit, because when it negotiates on behalf of the employees, it is negotiating on behalf of their members. But people who are non-union members also benefit from whatever is going to accrue from this agreement by the union and the employer. But legislation says you must prove as a union that this money that you take from these non-union members is used for the benefit of the employees. And in this case, it could be your members and also these non-union members. So that is why I'm saying there is nothing that prohibits unions from ensuring that their members benefit financially. Meaning that union can the union can decide that we are going to take this money and assist employees with grocery vouchers. Nothing prevents them from doing that. As long as the employees can say, hey, we are struggling. We are struggling. Grocery is very expensive. It will be a justification. Obviously, it is encouraging. Legislation is encouraging unions to take employees to workshops and so on and so on. But I don't think that it will be a problem if they can be assisted in any other way, as long as they can prove that this was the benefit for the employees.
So as long as it is transparent, then they can basically do whatever is required.
Exactly.
And then so basically, my thought from that is, I mean, members of unions, especially very big unions that have been there for a long time and presumably have amassed a large amount of money from the subscriptions they've gotten over the years, and maybe some of the ventures they've undertaken, investment ventures and so on and so forth. My perception, my everyday perception, is that I don't see a lot of people getting well off, right? They still basically workers, employees, heavily dependent on their salaries, and their lifestyles, aside from upward mobility within the organization, not the union, within the business, within the company where they work. Aside from that, I don't see, and I don't know because I don't know their financials, right? Because that's private information. But you can educate me here. Are they are people becoming, I don't want to say rich, but are they improving their lifestyles off of such benefits? And let me just complete the question. I do actually acknowledge, I want to acknowledge that unions are doing a lot of things. I mean, provision of some of these benefits like funeral cover comes from monies such as that money, right? Where they put that money to use to benefit the workers, to provide them with these services, funeral covers and so on. But are they doing enough is my question.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
You must not be misled to believe that unions take money from the coffers of the union to pay funeral schemes on behalf of the members. That's not the case.
Is it? Okay.
No, that's not the case. That's not the case. The members are paying extra.
On top of that?
Yes, they are either paying extra to the union or they're paying directly to the funeral schemes.
Oh.
The only benefit that these members have with that funeral scheme is that their premiums are much lower.
Lower, yeah.
When you go to a big company like Old Mutual and look for a funeral scheme as an individual, which will cost you 300 rand, as a member of the union, coming via the union, you'll find that you pay 50 rand or 100 rand for the same benefits.
For the same benefits.
Yes.
Okay.
That is how members are benefiting. But it is not that unions are taking money from their coffer directly to the... No, that's not the case.
Well, look, now for me, I'd like to acknowledge that is still quite a good benefit. I mean, 50 rand for just as an example, 50 rand for something that costs 300 rand is still quite a benefit. And, look, I want to be thankful to the unions because I do believe unions play a very important role, in safeguarding the interests of workers. Now, my question, though, is, it just goes back to considering how much money they're making, right? Are they doing enough, based on your experience? Are they doing enough to uplift, the lives of workers in terms of bringing them out of poverty or out of where they are to improve their lives in other ways that are not dependent on the salary? Like, and I just want to be more specific. if I'm a member of a union that has created an investment company, and the investment company invests the monies of the union, and the union makes a return, do I see a cent of that return as a member? How does that impact me as a member, as an individual member?
Well, I don't think that there's any union leader that can come, especially these big unions, that can come and say, this is how our investment company has benefited our members. The only thing that they will argue is that we have given away bursaries. We have conducted workshops. We have taken, we have negotiated with companies for them to give us shares here and there. But and another thing, it will be a benefit that will also accrue to staff members of the unions. There they can justify the profits they are getting from investment companies.
You mean staff members of the unions as opposed to members of the unions?
Yes, but an ordinary member of a union, say who has been with the union for the past 10 years, I don't think that there's very much that he can point out as a benefit.
Wow.
To himself or herself, except a very few of them.
Yeah.
Except a very few of them, which will provide bursaries.
Yes.
Not only to the members of the union, but to also their family members. But you must remember, Tony, the very same bursary scheme would not benefit all the members. It will only benefit those who will apply, just like any other bursary scheme.
Yeah.
Those who will apply and become successful. So meaning that there are others who will be left behind. And we'll find that those who are being left behind are the ones who need it most, who need the bursary the most. So, but how do you balance the equation there?
Yeah,
because it is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think that is.
I won't say the unions are not doing anything.
Yes,
no, I won't say that.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think they can do more.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to say to you, to me, these big unions have the capacity to create a fund like the employers who are running a provident fund or a pension
hedge
fund.
funds.
Yes. So that when I resign, for example, when a person has been in the union for a very long time and he retires, this person should be saying, I'm going to get a provident fund from my employer and also a certain fund from my union.
Yeah. Something like
that. Is why when it's called a hedge fund.
No. I mean, even other types of funds like the UIF, right? I mean, not everything has to be done by the state. I mean, the union could have, it could even now, decide if our members, because unions say, firstly, only people who are working can be members, and once you lose your job, they give you, I think, 3 months to come back, or you're out of the union. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
It depends on the constitution.
Of course, but they give you a period of time to try and either get your job back or get another job in the same sector or something. And if you can't, then your membership expires. If I'm correct.
Yeah, but if you are dismissed as a member of the union, the union must be with you until your case is finalized.
Until your case is finalized. Yeah.
Yes, even if you are no more contributing to the union, you are a member of the union, so you are entitled to be represented at the plant level, at the CCMA or Bargaining Council, or even at the labor court. Even if it can go to the constitutional court, the union is supposed to represent you free, because you were contributing to the union.
Yeah, so I'm now losing my train of thought. Okay, let's just move on. I think I might remember as we move on.
Okay.
Some of the aims and objectives of unions, right, include what we just discussed. Making sure that the state and the employer provide social security. But the next one talks about democracy within the workplace. Let me just read off of here. It says, achieve full and effective participation by workers in all decision making affecting them in the workplace. Right. So, when I was reading that statement, I was thinking to myself, my first thought was, but every decision in the workplace affects the workers. Firstly, would you agree with that? Does it make sense that every decision in the workplace affects the workers?
If I say yes, am I not going to be accused of being overly assertive? Because there could be an argument that says there could be other decisions that don't really affect the workers; they only affect the employers. But I believe there is an argument to believe that every decision of the employer affects the employees.
Okay.
Because the employees or the relationship between the employees and the employer is interdependent.
Yes.
Therefore, whatever the employer does will directly or indirectly have a bearing on the welfare of the employee. So to a certain extent, I believe that I would answer in the affirmative.
While we're talking about, the benefits that the individual member sees from the endeavors of the union, financial and economic endeavors of the union, I think that speaks more to this sort of division, right, conceptually between what is a member and what is the union. Because, we understand that the union are the members, but the union can become richer where the individual member does not see a cent of that sort of wealth, all right, increase in wealth. And I think it adds further to the confusion of what exactly is a leader. Because you have that division in terms of, okay, but leaders are the members. You have a division that but the organization is made up of the people. Therefore, the organization is the people, right? And I think that the problem around unions is one of confusion generally, right? In also just in sort of understanding what kind of organization it is. You already stipulated clearly what the legislation says and what it allows. It allows the union to undertake anything that is legal, right, and beneficial to its members. All right. But then also when it comes to actually practically looking at what happens there and the benefits, how they don't actually always trickle down to every individual member, it adds quite a lot to that confusion. I'd like to just ask, can you just, through your experience, can you provide an example where it made sense for the decision of the leader, where the leadership of the union said, this is our decision, you must follow, but the workers were not happy with that decision, and the leadership still saw it prudent and fair that, no, this is the decision. Can you just give maybe an example throughout your history dealing with unions where such a situation happened, that let's say the members that are at a local area said, no, but we're not happy with this national decision made by national leaders on this issue, where it made sense for the national leadership to stand its ground, to say, no, this is what's good for everybody. So we're not going to be listening specifically to any sort of disgruntled sectors of the union.
Yeah, I think that is what members of the union are used to me. Most of the settlements that are made by leaders at national level, settlements of disputes, would not necessarily be settlements that are supported by a majority of union members.
Majority?
Yes.
Wow.
For example, in the public service, I'll always make examples of public service because I was there.
Sure.
In the public service, some of the agreements that were signed in the past, even before the controversial 2008 issue of government reneging on implementing the third tier of the agreement. There were agreements in the past where leaders just decided that after consulting a few of the employees, then we are going to sign. Only to find that the employees were not happy. Even about this issue of the 2018 agreement, where government was supposed to give employees, I think it was around 7%. And the government ended up giving no increment on that particular financial year. The sentiment in the public sector, according to my observation, was that the union is supposed to fight to the union section are supposed to fight to the end. And the bitter end was supposed to be beyond the Constitutional Court, because the Constitutional Court agreed with the government that they cannot afford this. But workers were not happy. They are still, even now, not happy. Accepting of the, I'm trying to say, the acceptance of the situation by the leaders does not reflect the mood in the public service. Public servants are angry. They were angry. They are still angry even up to now. You can't say, you can't tell public servants that no, the Constitutional Court has declared the agreement to be invalid valid, and to be unconstitutional. To them, it's not really enough.
Then
because it is believed that because it is believed that the unions have the power to ensure that the agreement is implemented.
Then
even after the Constitutional Court has said it is illegal.
You mean it is legal? Yes.
It is unlawful, yes.
Wait, the Constitutional Court said it was unlawful.
Unlawful, invalid, and unconstitutional. It was a very strange ruling. I must say, it was very, very strange. I do not think that the Constitutional Court will agree with government.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding you properly. So the leaders decided to sign, right? And the Constitutional Court, sorry?
Not really to sign.
Okay.
Not really to sign, to capitulate. After the Constitutional, no, the leaders tried because the matter, that is why the matter was escalated to the Constitutional Court. They tried. What the problem with the problem that workers have with the leaders was that after the Constitutional Court has made the ruling, then the leaders said, there's nothing we can do.
Okay.
According to the workers, the leaders were supposed to say,
stand their ground.
Despite this, something must be done. It is even worse when it comes to COSATU. As an affiliate of the Tripartite Alliance, it's a very serious indictment on the part of COSATU.
So when the leaders made the decision to capitulate after the constitutional ruling, right? On whose behalf would you say they were making that decision then? If the members were not, I would assume that not even enough of them were consulted and they did not agree with that decision. But the leaders are supposed to be representing what the members want, right? So then in this case, on whose behalf would one argue they're making a decision?
On their behalf. On behalf of themselves. On behalf of themselves.
Not on the... Yeah.
No, who doesn't want an increment?
Yeah.
This is a very serious problem. Actually, it is a thought. What is it? It is a plot on the part of Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
A former union leader who is now a president, and he in his presidency he allows such things to happen.
So basically, I'm looking at the constitution of COSATU and NUMSA and them, and they're talking about the member. And you touched up on it a little bit when you were talking about if you are dismissed, right? But you were talking about the employee being dismissed by the employer, right? Now, as we know, as per the constitution of various unions, the member can also be dismissed by the union, for bringing the union into disrepute and sort of other related offenses. I noticed that the procedure by which the union does this is similar to the procedure that the employer uses to discipline and or dismiss. So my question, and this basically brought to my mind, what is a member? The procedures are similar, but a member is not an employer of the union. And from your understanding, would a member have the same rights under the law and the constitution as an employee? Right? What I mean is, would a member have those same rights relative to the union as an employee does relative to the employer? That's my question.
Yeah, the member does have rights because that's like his relationship vis-a-vis his employer. He has a right to represent himself. He has a right to be represented by a colleague or a member of the union. He has a right to be represented in the process.
Yeah. Okay.
And if the matter escalates further, he has a right to be represented by any legal representative allowed by that particular group.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. My understanding of the rights given an employee by the law for protection are based on the nature of the relationship that the employee has with the employer, where the employee is considered to be somewhat dependent on the salary as a source of income for his livelihood, and therefore on the job and the relationship with the employer, right? And therefore needs protection from the employer from exploitation, right? This is what I'm understanding. Whereas a member, on the other hand, pays the union, right, and gains protection. This protection that is essentially the union, if you think about it, is more of a watchdog to make sure that the employer abides by the laws in making sure that the employer is protected. For me, that shows a I would say a different, the two different relationships. Okay, and that's where for me, I wouldn't equate, because I mean that's why a member is not an employee. I mean the members don't work for the union; they pay the union. The union works for them, whereas the employee works for the employer, and the employer pays the employee. So I would say my understanding is that the constitution of the union is what by law obligates the union to follow said procedure, right? To say, look, have this procedure when you want to discipline or dismiss a member. But does that mean, and I don't know here, does that mean that the union is obligated to have that procedure? That's what I'm saying. Does the law obligate the union to have a disciplinary procedure as it is currently similar to that of the employee? Or can the union say, just based on this contract, because it's a civil contract, right, to say, hey, look, if you misbehave, you're out. There's no, because you're not an employee, right? You're not an employee, so we're not bound by the Labor Relations Act in that way, because you don't work for us. You're just a member, right? Correct me, just educate me on this.
Yeah, the union is obliged by legislation to treat not only its employees fairly, but also its members. There'll be a disciplinary code for the employees who are full-time staff members of the union, and also there'll be disciplinary code for members. There'll be a disciplinary code for us as an organization. You wouldn't be immune from misconduct. Your members would definitely, one way or the other, sometime be found on the wrong side of the rules of the union. And you must have an instrument. So in your constitution, that is why you'll be obliged to provide measures, fair measures, which comply with the laws of the Republic that would involve in case of this type of behavior.
So it's not. Is it the Labor Relations Act? I don't think it's the Labor Relations Act. Which law, aside from the Constitution, would you say? Is it the Labor Relations Act that obliges a union? Because this is part of the registration process. If you want to register a union, isn't it? That you should have a constitution that details these procedures, right? But which laws? Sorry.
It is the Labor Relations Act.
Oh, it is the Labor Relations Act.
Yes, it is part of the. Is part of the requirements for the registrar to consider your application to be a valid one if you apply for registration as a union.
Okay.
If you don't have those type of provisions in your constitution, your application won't be successful.
Where would you say that the Consumer Act fits in here? I mean, considering that the union, the member purchases services from the union, then the member is a consumer of union services, right? Would you say that the member is covered by the Consumer Act?
Yeah, I believe that union members are entitled in terms of the Consumer Act and also other contract law to enforce their rights as members. That is why if I'm a member of an organization or a union which fails to carry out its responsibilities on my behalf, I have a right to sue the union. And it has happened in the past. Okay. I may not have all the information, but I know that there's a union, I think it's SAMU, or I think it's SAKAU or SAMU. I think it's SAMU or SAKAU, which was sued something like 5 million by workers for failing to represent the members. And
that is funny, though, don't you think? I think that is a bit funny because it will have to pay that 5 million, won't it?
Yes, it will.
And that 5 million will have to come out of the coffers that it amassed. So it's their money. They are suing it to pay them their money, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Actually, to me, if workers can exercise those rights, many unions can be sued, especially the big ones.
Okay.
I'm telling you, many unions can be sued because these complaints that are coming from union members who say that this is what happened to me, the union left me in the lurch.
Yeah.
They said they're going to represent me, they did not represent me, and so on and so on. If these members can sue the unions, I'm telling you, we can have close to a quarter of the court rolls of labor court containing litigation by members of the union against their unions. I'm telling you, the way, as I said earlier, unions are doing a disservice to their members.
Yeah, they're weak. The way you put it is they're weak. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are weak. They are weak. Actually, sometimes I encourage workers to sue these unions. While I'm also a former trade unionist, I'm still a trade unionist at heart.
Yes.
But I encourage unions to sue these unions. I can't be paying subscriptions every month, and then when I'm supposed to be represented, then there's no one who wants to represent me.
Yeah.
No, the workers must do something about it.